like 1920 stuff. It
Still
That's
works.
the thing. Sometimes you don't reflect. It's amazing that tape made such a big difference. Huh?
That makes a huge difference.
That's probably about the
Episode 4, 5. Where did that come in? First episode.
No, we only discovered that
when we
later.
moved into that other room.
Yeah, we started.
We started using it.
This is our third
probably been
studio.
our biggest technological advancement.
It is, yeah. Screw the mics, the cameras, duct tape. What's the one thing that's changed the Bryan Air Podcast? Duct tape.
It holds airplanes together. So it only works for sound.
Yeah.
So for everyone out there that's wondering what the hell we're talking about, that is the duct tape that is keeping the sound out of the room. Obviously, we're in a simulator center here, so the sound is on that side is rather loud, so we use duct tape, we tape up the door.
Loudest aircons in the planet. Huh?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, but it works.
But duct tape works. And Parrock is the duct tapey.
Yeah. Just don't look underneath the table.
Simulator buildings have that sound to them, don't they? That when you walk in, you can just hear fans and noises, and because the room must be kept cool.
Yeah. That's it.
But is that still the case? I mean, this is the old sort of hydraulic system, but the new modern Sims, do they also need that same cooling?
Not as much.
Not as much.
No.
Yeah, much less power that required as well. But in case you haven't noticed, we have a very special guest on our show today. And it's been a long time coming. Alex MacPhail is a businessman. He's an airline pilot. He's a keynote speaker. He was formerly part of the Silver Falcons formation display team, SAA for 12 years, instructor. He's a mentor, and he's become a really good friend of mine. All of those things pale in comparison to the fact that you're a podcast host. Alex, awesome to have you on our show, man.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks, Brett. Thanks, Ryan. Yeah, it's great to be here. It's been a long time in coming. We've been talking about this, and today's the day. I'm excited to be here.
We didn't have enough time earlier for all the accolades, you see. Now we organized an extra 10 minutes just for that.
Yeah, it's awesome to have you on the show. And like I said, it's been a while. We've been planning to get you on, but with the disruption of everything, it's taken a bit longer. But you've interviewed some awesome people over the years. I mean, you can go into your YouTube channel and have a look at the wide range of people that you've interviewed, from sports stars to celebrities. And but I think we all agree here today, one of the people that you interviewed was actually my favorite interview you did last year, was with Major General Des Barker from the South African Air Force. Tragic news yesterday. So I'd like to dedicate today's show to Major General Des Barker and his family, because what a tragic incident yesterday, close to where you live there, Ryan. I mean, it's, fortunately lost his life in an accident flying a SAF Museum Patchen Explorer, and with Rama Iya, is that how you? Iya. Yeah, terrible news. So dedicated to them today. And Alex, I was going to ask you must have picked up a huge amount of insights from all the guests that you've spoken to over the past year. I mean, I remember at the beginning of the original lockdown, you were pushing out an episode, I think, every day.
Yeah, that's true. So it was a bit of a strange time for everyone, and for me, it was almost the day before I decided it's time to do something a little different. And I had really got into the public speaking. I had a few events lined up, booked, paid, talking to corporates, and when the lockdown started, it was announced, they started cancelling the shows. So I had to make another plan. It was a case of, this was my ticket out to do something different other than flying. That's also being taken away. But what can I do to keep current, stay relevant, and keep the skill of public speaking up? So then I thought, well, let's try a live YouTube show. And it ties in nicely to when I sit here and I see this beautiful studio, because it really is beautiful. You guys have got a lot of tech. You put a lot of effort in. Your nice, smart new shirts look great. And the equipment looks good and slick. We're not talking behind the scenes stuff, but it really is impressive. And I'm thinking back to my good friend Fran reminded me last week that first live show I did on YouTube, when I tested it out. I was sitting on the couch at home and I was just holding my phone and fiddling, and I think it was a 10-second clip, where I just sat there saying, is this thing recording? Is this thing happening? And it went onto YouTube, and a few people saw it, and I deleted it after that because now I know it was working. But yeah, an episode a day. I think I started at 2 o'clock every day, 20 minutes. And within a few days, I realized I can't just do a monologue for 20 minutes. I need to do something different. Again, suggestions from people. Why don't you interview someone? Started with some friends, and it went from strength to strength.
Yeah, I mean, you did a great job, but I'm sure you'd agree. Obviously, that by pushing out an episode so consistently, your improvement was rapid. I mean, talk about those original ones to how you are now. I mean, but it was those original shows that got you to that point. So, and I also, just to let everyone know, it was actually Alex that said to me, "Hey, come on, we get back on the air. You know, people want to hear your stuff." So you were a big influence, and you know, there's a market out there, and go and push something out. So I really do thank you for that, because you know, everyone needs it from time to time. You need a little boost. So I think you have a good ability to pick people up like that. So I do thank you for that.
What I love about what you've done is that first 10 minutes live on YouTube, have to delete it. We've looked at some of our earlier stuff and we think, gee, what the hell were we doing? Yeah. And but the fact is, you got out there, you did it, and doing it on your own is not easy. That is one of the hardest things you can ever do. We've been great. The three of us have been around. Brian, you started it before, but you immediately started with an interview with someone. Doing a monologue for 20 minutes is a tough ask. So kudos to you.
Yeah, we also.
I mean, sorry.
No, go.
It was when we decided to kick this off in the middle of last year. Same situation. Also trying to figure things out. We also didn't have this whole thing completely figured out. You had to get started and let this whole thing sort of morph organically. And I think it's just getting it started and letting it gain some momentum is where you grow.
Well, one thing I've noticed, I mean, so over the year, because of that first grooving the swing, you know, that every day, it ended up being 6 weeks, 5 days a week, and I kept saying, I need to get a body of work. If you look at anyone that puts out content, whether it's writing or screenplays or music, you need to get a body of work that you can look back on and say, you can see the growth. As you said, those first videos didn't look so good, they got better, but it was a case of just start. And because of this body of work was growing, I got interviewed a few times on different platforms, and that was the story that I kept on pushing, that just start. You haven't got all the answers. In fact, what you think you're doing now, you're probably not going to do in 6 months. So don't worry about web pages and fancy things. Just start, see where the journey takes you, and that brings us to some exciting opportunities later on in this episode.
Yeah, Alex has got some exciting news to share, so looking forward to getting into that.
First public announcement of this, and we'll get to that in a minute.
Well, that's awesome. And he chose the Bryan Air Podcast to do this public announcement. Alex, besides the podcast side and the interviewing and your live shows, you're a slightly different type of pilot, and you remind me more of myself than the other stock standard airline pilot out there. You've been very good at personal branding. And I say that in particular with a platform like LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. You have an ability when you post, you bring people in, and you've posted some really, really good topics and pictures and from a wide range of media. Now, I would say you probably, from an aviation side, you're probably one of I don't think there's another pilot out there that has got the reach that you've managed to build over the past few years using social media, in particular LinkedIn. This year, or the past 12 months, it's been quite evident that having a strong social presence is important. Obviously, if you don't have one, then you're throwing away potential listeners and viewers. So you've managed over the past few years to bring people into your network, but you've also been quite good at bringing the right people in. I mean, we connected first on LinkedIn, and we started engaging with each other. But we sat here the other day, you came for a little ad hoc visit, and one of the stories that I really liked, and I would like you, if you don't mind, to just let our listeners know. One of my heroes is Lewis Pugh. I read one of his books many years ago, and when I was at South African Express Airways, we were doing some training across at your facility there at SAA, and Alex had arranged for Lewis to come to the SAA facility to give a bit of a talk to the employees or anyone that wanted to come across. And I was quite surprised that day that there weren't people hanging off the ceilings trying to get into that facility to listen to what he had to say, because I was certainly excited, and it came through on an SMS that Lewis will be there at 12 o'clock, and if you want to come and listen, then come and sit in the SAA auditorium. So it was a no-brainer for me to be there. Obviously, you see a big value in someone like that. You arrange the whole thing. But it goes a bit deeper with you and Lewis, and I think he added a bit of inspiration to you at some point down the line with that just sort of do it attitude, or just start attitude. And I really liked what you had to say to me the other day about his influence. So if you wouldn't mind giving me a bit of background.
Let's see if I can recount it in a way that strikes a chord with you. You're right. So again, it was LinkedIn. LinkedIn was the platform where I was getting busy, and really it was a journey. I've been on LinkedIn a long time, and what I used it for was to just spread messages about high performance teams, and specifically being I considered an international airline pilot flying the Airbus 16 hours at a time to New York. I consider that a high performance team. It's 4 pilots, 16 cabin crew, long flights, time zones, other hemisphere weather, etc. So I'd share the message, but then I started doing a little bit more behind the scenes stuff and sharing the message of the ops guys and people that were a little bit less celebrated, but yet made a big influence in my life and other air crew at SA as well. And in this messaging, I got this personal message from Lewis on LinkedIn saying, "Alex, I like what you're doing, keep it up." And various other people too. I thank people that encouraged me in that way, as you mentioned at the top of the show. But when he messaged me, I said, "Oh, that's great." And I replied right away saying, "Thanks so much. We're great if we can have a cup of coffee sometime." And he said, "Yeah, sure." And we left it at that. And a few weeks later, I thought, you know what? Seize the day. I said, "Lewis, how about we meet up next week? I'll get a Cape Town jump seat." He lives down in where I grew up, down in the Fishhook area. And went down there and we had a lunch and we chatted, and it was just sitting over the table talking with this guy. Again, for me, also a bit of a childhood hero. I enjoyed open water swimming and I've been following his story. And he was busy training for this latest Antarctica swim, which he shared that story with us at SAA last year. And through that conversation, it just became more and more apparent that this is something I want to do. I want to get involved. I want to share the message. I want to, a motivational story, uplift people, give them some hope and opportunity, and reach for more than you're doing. And it was just really a sense of, towards the end, the last few minutes I had to go, you had an appointment, and I said, Lewis, I'm just not sure about how do I kick this off. And essentially, he gave me the permission. That's a bit of a psychological term. Someone just gives you the permission to do something. And essentially, he gave me the permission to say, "Alex, you can do it." And I said, "Lewis, look, I don't really know what to say or do or introduce myself, or how does this thing start? Like, I'm standing on the stage, what next?" And he said, "Look, you just say, look," and he recounted the words to me. He said, "Good morning, my name is Alex MacPhail. I'm a former display pilot in the South African Air Force. Today, I'll be talking about high performance teams. I love high performance teams. I love learning from them, what we can all learn from them. And today we're talking with whoever it is," and he used the example of Francois Pina because I was already interested in reaching out to people. And just that message I recorded on a voice note and I played it over and over and over. And as I went into public speaking more and more, I would listen to that and I'd form my introduction in a similar way. But just that reassurance that someone's saying, no, you got this. As we've talked once or twice over the last 2 years, there was times where you took a dip and I reached out to you and said, "Hey, Bryan, you got this." And look where you are now. I mean, I can also remember looking around the studio when you guys kicked off last year. You didn't have this kind of look and branding. No. And I remember sending you a message which I thought twice about later on, but you responded well, which I'm glad worked out that way. But I was perhaps a little bit critical, saying you need to tidy it up a little. And yeah, I mean, it's way slicker than what the high performance team show looks like. So well done.
No, thanks, Alex. And I love that story because it's exactly what we have been trying to push ourselves. And I think where we've been lucky and where I also respect how you've managed to do it, there's three of us. Ryan might be having a slightly off day. Then it's my and Brett's responsibility to pick him up, obviously. And, and we've had that the entire time. The same when it comes to, you speak a lot about incremental gains. That was we had one goal, just make the next episode better. It doesn't matter in what way. If we can't make the studio better, then we need to improve the content on which we're speaking about, or the way we speak into the microphone, or anything. And the learning curve with something like this has been massive. But there's been three of us, and we've worked together nicely, and we've been lucky with that. But I do love that story with Lewis, because I can picture him giving you that sort of permission to go out there and do it. And you're right, it is that permission. At the beginning, I also looked at myself. I wasn't at SAA. I was at SA Express. The ugly little cousin. And I kind of like when I walk past the heavies in the corridors at SAA, I kind of thought, shit, I wonder what they think about me running this aviation podcast. But then this whole pandemic came along, and my attitude changed a bit, because I realized that my thought process was right, and we kind of have gone from strength to strength, if I can say that myself, but something that I'm incredibly proud of. And it can only happen when there's people around like yourself and lots of other people. We mentioned guys like Duncan Gillespie a lot on the show, Craig Wood, lots of people. My old man, your old man, Brett, loves the show. And you need that support to encourage you to go back next week and push out another show. And I think if we can all do that for all people, not just in the media space, but in life in general, it'll be a hell of a lot better world.
Anything you do in life, it's interesting you say that. Just you give yourself that permission, or someone gives you the permission, or something gives you the permission. But that permission is needed. It's a strange thing. I'm pretty sure there's a variety of psychologists who are going to try who can explain that. But if you look at it, you can be in a situation, you know what you're supposed to do, you know what you need to do, what you desperately want to do, but you just don't do it. But getting that permission, you got it from Lewis, you got it from a situation. So just following that and just doing that 10-minute thing, or 5 minutes once a day, or whatever it is, suddenly you end up in one of the greatest podcasting shows, the Bryan Air Podcast.
Here we sit. It's interesting that, this ties back to the top of the show once again, General Des Barker. So I flew with him in 2005, I think it was, where he logged his 3,000th hour on the IMP, on the Iraqi Mark 1. And I was on the operational test and evaluation course. He was a general, and he was my instructor for this. I had to do an evaluation of the rear seat ILS, which was located like almost below your kneecaps, low down, because it was the last place in the cockpit they could jam it in there. But I at the time, although I think I had a fairly above average ability in flying, I didn't take things seriously enough. And I say this a lot as well, where I had a great conversation with John Vlismus, the comedian, where he's gone from being on the show and on the stage, being a entertainer, to now being serious and being a lecturer at the Henley Business School, one of the top schools on the continent. And I've gone kind of the other way. It was, for me, I've been doing lecturing and stuff, and now I'm kind of bordering on entertainment. But the personal journey is interesting, because going back to that time with Des Barker, it was I didn't take it seriously enough, and I had a bunch of serious heavyweight Air Force colonels and the general as well was my audience, and I was giving a briefing on my findings of this flight. It's quite a serious environment, flight testing, and I pitched it at the wrong level, and he called me out on it right there and then while I was standing there, finished my talk, and he called me out in front of everybody. You need to know your audience. You're pitching this at the wrong level. Can you see who's sitting in this room? And we spoke about it in this interview with him, which is sad and ironic, but at the same time I'm really grateful that we had that chat, because I released it as a podcast 2 days ago, and I was just busy getting ready to promote it on LinkedIn yesterday, and there it was that he went down. But But he also, in a way, gave me the permission to take things more seriously and to focus and say, look, you have something here, but you're wasting it. So just do something a bit more. And in that conversation, we brought it up again. And I don't think there's any love lost. In fact, I can have a chuckle about it now. But I see him as a mentor at that phase of my life. And to tie it all together last year when we chatted, it was quite nice to also get that permission once more.
No, that's awesome. I mean, Ryan, I think you can. We've had lots of discussions here on our show, because the difficulty comes in here. What I would really like to get out of this as well is to offer the opportunity for Ryan and Brett to be able to expand their personal brands and to expand into their areas of interest. I mean, it just goes without saying. Brett has slightly different areas of specific knowledge to me, but we're here at the beautiful training center at SimAero, and I said to Ryan the other day, for the first time, I've kind of realized what my passion actually is. And if I had to say my passion is aviation, it's wrong. It's not aviation. My passion is creating content for the aviation industry. And this has been a wonderful thing for me to be able to offer the opportunity for my crew members here to kind of do the same thing. And I know, I mean, I'm not putting you on the spot now, Ryan. I hope I'm not.
No,
but Ryan in particular, you speak about John Blissmus and how he had to change and how you had to change. People do change. And I've seen a massive change in Ryan. We started off being huge friends. I mean, 2010, we had simulator training together, and we had a blast. I mean, it was just the best sim training or best partner I could have wished for. But our roles at SACS were very much come to work, sign on, sign off, and go home, and then we meet, every now and again for a beer. But Ryan's grown into a different person now. He's a professional, and he's I think, trying to find his next big move. And I think a lot of the people that work close to Ryan are kind of also trying to figure him out, because he's a different person now. But I said to him the other day, you've got permission to be a different person. You're supposed to be. If you weren't, there'd be a problem. So it's been wonderful for me, and such a nice thing to see the growth, even from your side, Brett. I mean, Alex, I've got to get these guys up at 5 o'clock in the morning to come sit on a podcast every week, prepare during the week, and these guys do it without batting an eyelid, to come and sit on a show called the Bryan Air Podcast. So I owe them a hell of a lot.
Both Ryan and I are changing our names.
Yeah. Going along the theme of high performance teams, exactly what we've been saying is, this whole experience and journey is also, it's given me that latitude to also broaden my horizons, and I'm eternally grateful for it, because for 10 years as an airline pilot at SA Express, you were kind of, I want to say, almost throttled by the system, because there was a seniority list. I'd been waiting for my command position for a very, very long time, and I was actually due to go for my upgrade probably a month before the whole thing went bang, which was a bit of a kick in the balls, so to speak. And then you kind of leave that behind, and now you want to figure a new journey, plan a new sort of future for yourself. And we as pilots, I think, have a tendency to always fall back on, but this was where I was. And you've got to get rid of that mindset. So that's what I'm enjoying out of this whole process, is being able to sort of let go of that and grow. And
you have.
And it's a wonderful platform to grow from.
Alex, did you find, Ryan's talking about something there. Our sort of motto at the beginning, and lots of people at a company, like, let's take SA Express as an example. I'm sure SA are exactly the same. If you could stay underneath the radar and you never really put a foot wrong, you never said the wrong thing, you were kind of A-okay. That was the sort of gold standard. Don't put your neck out there. Just stay below the radar. Do what you're told. No one will ever even know you work there. Get your paycheck at the end of the month. And I think that's where a lot of the difficulties come now with the guys that aren't flying, because that is the exact opposite of what you need to do.
That's right. One of the earlier briefings I got from colleagues, great people, professionals, and people I respect when I joined the airline, was the goal is you get in there, You meet the chief pilot on the first day. He never remembers your name. He never sees you, and you retire 40 years later with a watch with no incidents, and no one ever spoke about you. And although it comes from a place of love and it comes from a place of diligence and professionalism, as we are airline pilots striving for that, it's the wrong attitude. And certainly in today's environment, that doesn't work. You need to do more. You need to stand out. You need to offer help. You need to go above and beyond. And you can't do that by just flying under the radar.
No, you can't.
Alex, I see what you're saying 100%. It might have been right 20, 30, 40 years ago. Now is not right. I see young students coming in here, initial ratings on an ERJ with a captain who's been there and he's doing a recurrent. Let me tell you, these guys are starting to speak up. They're starting to say, Captain, you're doing this wrong, whatever. And the captains are fighting back, but at the same time, these guys are not stopping. But it's highlighting their skill, their ability, and that shows the leadership quality.
Sure.
So sitting back there quietly, if you want to be a mouse your whole life and get the scraps, just follow that path. If not, step out there. You've got to step
changed.
out.
But maybe you'll know a bit more about this than me, but in flying or in aviation, we've got a very rigid set of rules and procedures, and you have to follow those. You don't jump into a 340 the one day and operate it different to the last day. You have to follow a prescribed set of procedures. Now, what you're doing and what we've done with this thing, there is no, what do you start with first? And it was kind of that, starting with a blank sheet of paper, that was difficult, but that was also the fun part. That was the best part for me, was there was no procedure. There's no rules. You had to figure it out yourself. And the amount that we've learned from our failures along the way has been, so important in terms of our growth. So we've had to fail to improve on the next show. High performance teams, Alex, we're going to talk about something cool now, because if someone says a high performance team, I think about you. And
it worked.
Yeah, for sure.
It did.
It did. No, it really did. It did. It absolutely did. High performance teams, Alex.
Yeah.
And I was actually a bit taken aback the other day, because we mentioned that show on that Johnny Wilkinson episode, which was a similar sounding name, and I was like, is this on Alex's show? Is this some other show? But I'd heard of Alex. I hadn't heard of these other guys. So no, you did a great job with that. But
the fun thing is where it takes you.
Yeah.
You started with that. You may continue with it, but the other doors that are opened now, that is exciting.
Well, it's open doors,
Let's get into a little bit of detail, but let me fill in a couple of minutes of the backstory. As I said, the LinkedIn posts, the celebrating the teams, etc. It was a case of aviation grabs people. That Leonardo da Vinci quote. You're going to look around and keep looking up to the sky. So a photo of an airplane at any phase, in the cockpit, out the cockpit, flying, not flying, clouds, dark day, people like it. So it grabs your attention easily on social media. So I was celebrating it, and and there was no theme. And this is one of the other things that we spoke of, I think, earlier on, or in a year or so back, tied to something, so that it's not just random pictures of airplanes or random stories of things, tied to something. And for me, I spent a bit of time, a couple of months, and I eventually got to this thing, high performance teams. And once again, this permission, I'm just a co-pilot. I've only been flying for 18, 19 years. Am I the person to celebrate this stuff? All those fears and insecurities, they come out, and very quickly they were dispelled, because some of my colleagues that I respect, senior captains and training captains and people that I really look up to, were commenting, hey, that's good info, good gen. And then it became high performance teams, and that grew, and eventually high performance teams as a brand became someone reaching out. The first person was Momentum. They said, hey, can we talk? Can you come give a talk? We're launching our new website. We want you to come and give a talk at our quarterly. So that was, okay, great. And then after with Lewis, I got the permission. So this continued on, and eventually then with the situation last year going live on YouTube, and I carried on with the theme of high performance teams, and had to build some kind of a picture and a branding and a little intro and a jingle, and that carried on. And the suggestion of friends being, why don't you interview someone? And after you've done one or two friends, like this conversation now, it's easy. It's easy to interview friends. It's easy to interview people in a similar mindset. Pilots are easy to interview if you're a pilot. For me, I can speak to any pilot, particularly an Air Force pilot, because I can fast forward 10 years just knowing that you were in the RAF or whichever Air Force. So that built on. And one of the earlier interviews I did was we built up to Patrick Davidson, who is a Red Bull Air Race pilot and also a Red Bull athlete. His planes are covered in Red Bull. And because of that, it opened a door to an opportunity talking with the people from, the directors and the operations people from Red Bull Air Races. Anyway, fast forward to the exciting announcement. One thing led to the next, and continue on the journey, but you don't know where this journey is taking you. Now we can make the official announcement. Is it a good time now?
Let's do it.
Okay.
Wait. Which one was the drum roll over here? I can't remember.
Take a risk. Come on.
Well, let's see what that does. I don't even know.
Volume's down. That's all.
I need the headphones.
Okay. So I'm proud to announce that, and this is the first public announcement, they have asked me to be the podcast host of the World Championship Air Race podcast. So what was Red Bull Air Races is now the World Championship Air Race. It was bought out by a Chinese company based in Hong Kong. And the executive and the racing team, etc., the pilots are the similar crowd. And we conduct our first interview tomorrow with Willie Cruikshank, former RAF pilot who's heading up the show from the pilot's perspective, the operations. And we kick off. And at the end of the month, the World Championship Air Race podcast launches. And I'm the host of the show, and it's unbelievable for me. Like,
congratulations!
Well, that is
brilliant.
That is so fantastic.
Absolutely brilliant.
That is fantastic. And you know what's so cool with that? All right, that in itself is awesome, but it's not that. It's the path to that. And that's what we've spoken about today.
Yeah.
That's what's so cool. And for me, it starts with it's simple. It started with that. Just go and do it. You can go and do it. So that's awesome, Alex. That's fantastic. Where are we going to find this? How are we going to...
You'll see if you're following on any channel at the moment, World Championship Air Race it's got a black and white logo right now. It's got a very stylized A on it. Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, everywhere. They're pumping hard. And I'm very excited for this journey. The first couple of guests are lined up. We've got people like Matt Hall, the reigning champion from the last Red Bull Air Race series. He's the second guest. We've got people lined up like the Zipco aircraft, the Edge 540, the first lady in the team, Melanie Astels. Lots of pilots, obviously, but we're also going to go behind the scenes and get hold of the main technical boss and the people that were involved in the pylons and the emergency paramedics and the propeller design. And also one of their goals is to have an electrified race. There's apparently a 19 or 20-year-old, someone in North America, I can't remember if it's Canada or America, who's developing electric aircraft. And I mean, he's a youngster. He's way ahead of his game and he's just focused on tech. There's going to be an electric plane that's going to charge around at 300 miles an hour doing this stuff in a couple of years' time. So there's some great, exciting guests lined up, and I'm really excited to get sink my teeth.
Well, this is awesome. What a nice... Yeah, and you chose the right platform to push it on. But we'll put all the gen for that in the show notes as well. And that's fantastic, Alex. Congratulations.
So Red Bull is out. Is that right?
That's it.
Okay. So and this is global as well. Going to be all around the world.
So what you knew as the Red Bull Air Race is now the World Championships Air Race. They are headquartered in the UK. There's an opening ceremony in the middle of the year, and I'll be heading off to the UK to join them and to mingle with the people and get some live interviews one-on-one.
Oh, man.
And
brilliant.
Really excited for this. It's going to be
That's brilliant.
a whole new journey.
Is there any scope of them bringing the championships to South Africa?
There is. In fact, we're pushing hard, and we're trying to bring it to Cape Town, April 2022. Next year is the plan, and that discussion is also on the go at the moment, and hopefully we obviously need the approvals from both Civil Aviation Airshow and the City Council to allow the event. COVID being an issue, crowds, etc. We just need to see how that plays out. That may or may not have a factor. And then some sponsorship. So if you know anybody out there who would like to get involved, sponsorship of this event, you can reach out to me.
It'll be wonderful, not just for the aviators, but the whole of South Africa to have an event like that. We don't really have these big global events. There's no Formula One races, there's no MotoGP. So we need something like that that'll be awesome.
It would be cool. I mean, we've got all the infrastructure and the facilities for that. It would be so nice to see more of these events take place in SA. But yeah, an air race or World Championship air race would be a nice way to kick it off.
It would be lovely, yeah. It's very exciting, very, very exciting.
And their logo would go very well on our new shirts.
It would, yeah. It would fit in nicely.
Yeah, well, that's fantastic news. And yeah, it's very happy you're going to do that. What's going to happen with your existing stuff? Obviously, high performance teams. Are we going to carry on?
There's a few different ideas there. One of them being that, because the interview is the work that I'll be doing, they're going to give me access to all the raw files, and I can repeat the interview on high performance teams, just a bit of a delay so that their stuff stays current and mine is the sort of a replay. So I'm toying with the different things, but possibly that'll take up, because we're planning about 36 interviews between now and the end of the year. So that'll be a busy chunk of time. I had another couple of ideas which not really working out too well at this point to take the show into the air in an aircraft. I've just recently got myself back into flying. In the last 3 weeks, I've flown 3 times. Fly day is a good day for me, and I really enjoyed flying the RV again. So perhaps there's something coming there, but certainly the interviews will carry on the World Championship Air Race platform.
Oh, that's brilliant, man! Congratulations! Such good news, and someone else in our networking circle doing something. It's fantastic. I want to talk about because it's sort of down your side of things, Alex. I don't know if you heard Sir Tim Clark's interview with John Olstrow, I think you pronounce his name that way, the other day.
I'm familiar with Tim Clark, but I haven't...
Yeah, what happened was he was heavily critical of Boeing and the engine manufacturers in a recent interview. And it got me thinking. My old man has been saying this for years. Aviation's a funny business. If you have an issue with your BMW, or let's say BMW find an issue with their airbags, they'll send you an email and say, listen, bring your car in to any of the agents. They need to put a new chip in the airbag system, as an example.
Yeah, recall items.
Yeah. Now, aviation doesn't work like that. Obviously, there was that 777 aircraft, the Pratt & Whitney, contained, they now say, engine failure the other day. But the figures, that they were talking about what has to happen. Now, there's 103, this was a FAA directive to anyone operating the 777 series with those Pratt & Whitney engines. They've got to go in and now be checked. That check costs, I think it was like $1,800 or something like that, which is no big deal. But if there is a suspect blade, now we're talking individual blades of the N1, the high bypass, $125,000 for a single blade, if there is a threat of that it might fail. $125,000. Now that's more than the house that I stay in for one blade, bearing in mind there's 2 engines.
And 30 odd blades per engine.
Yeah. 30 odd blades per engine. Now, so Tim Clark, he has this whole interview, and obviously talking about Boeing and obviously the issues that they've had over the past few years. The sort of toxic culture is spoken about a lot, and he has said he's sick of it now. The manufacturers of the engines and the airframes have to produce products that they can operate on a 99.9% dispatch reliability. Otherwise, they're not interested. The business of, we'll provide you a product, but it's not quite what we said it's going to be, but don't worry, it will be updated. Because that's apparently what's been happening. He says, no, it's done. The 777X and the 787 are disaster stories right now. They can't deliver 787. So he really climbed into them from the way they're performing, if I can use that word.
Sure.
And he says it needs to change from the top down. They replaced, I think, the CEO with another board member, but he says it's not good enough. That the board was responsible for what's happened. So replacing like for like is not going to work. I mean, it's one thing to look at a podcast here and say, right, there's key elements involved. But when it becomes, you talk about high-performing teams in a big global sense, big business, Alex, I mean, does the concept stay exactly the same? I mean, obviously you need your key individuals, but I think if I could, use Ryan and Brett as an example, the key for us in our little show here has been that we're all pushing in exactly the same direction. It's not that Brett wants to get something else out and Ryan's using it for something. It's that we agreed at the beginning, let's use this as a learning curve for ourselves and try and build up personal brands and use that. Company like Boeing, do they have, these huge corporations, do they have a centralized effort? I know they've probably got a slogan and stuff like that, but are the people working there and the people making the decisions, are they all making those decisions for the betterment of Boeing and better product, or are they making decisions that will allow them to get a bonus at the end of the year, Brett?
Yeah.
So, there's one word that comes to mind as you're talking about. It's accountability. So they have a way forward. They know what they want to do. I have no doubt about that. But the board at the end of the day should be held accountable. Now, for decades, government has backed Boeing, hidden all of the stuff. Even the FAA messed up with the MAX accident. So it's gone through ages and ages of there is no accountability. So as soon as someone isn't held accountable, if Ryan, you and I don't perform on the Bryan Air Podcast, we have to leave.
Yeah.
Okay. There is accountability. If you don't perform with your podcast going forward, trust me, that accountability is going to be forced on you. You're going to be out. They're going to replace you with someone else. So,
and that's why they've chosen a guy like. That's what I suppose they're doing. They say, well, they're not going to take that risk. They need to make sure in every aspect that they are choosing the right people. So that's why there's a big emphasis, obviously, in the right people.
Yeah, they got to get rid of that board first of all, and there's accountability has to come into it.
It ties back to the conversation earlier where you talked about the excitement, the beginning phase where there's no roadmap, there's a blank sheet of paper. It is exciting, and it is the fun stage, and especially when you're a small little group like this, 3 of you, you're a bunch of mates too, you're aligned in your thinking. But don't you find it strange how over the weeks and months you start building an SOP and you start falling into that groove of being an airline pilot and using the structures and the routines and disciplines that worked so well there, and all of a sudden they make sense why they had all these rules, not to be boring, but just to make things tidy. And a good friend of mine, and we speak a lot, and he's very well read, and he mentions that the key job of the boss is to hire and to fire, to get good people and get rid of bad people. It's not good enough to just find good people. If people aren't performing, you need to get rid of those people too. That's an area now in one of the businesses I'm involved in now that I had to learn, because I don't like the confrontation. I don't like having those tough conversations, and I've had to remove 5 people since we started, and it's only in 6 months, and it's tough and it's not a fun job, but it's required of you. You'll sink the whole ship if you don't get rid of the bad apples. And another thing you mentioned specifically, a big corporate like Boeing. This same friend mentioned, he took over as a responsible person in an AMO, and he made one small little change that made a huge difference. He just ensured that people came to work neat and tidy. You got a uniform? Dress up. Make sure your shoes are polished. Tuck your shirt in. Make sure it's ironed and neat and tidy. That one little thing just permeated right through the whole culture, and people started to take a little bit more pride in their work. There was less being late, less absenteeism. People's work, the work rate and the sort of approach to work, professionalism improved. So yes, it can be fixed. And in a big multinational, you got to look at the boss. The fish rots at the head first.
Yep.
Replace. If it's the boss that's causing the trouble, yes, get rid of the boss. But the boss needs to hire well, and it needs to also get rid of people that aren't working. And you can't manage more than a handful of people. A team of about 12 is the optimum, 8 to 12 people, like a SWAT team. And so you need to have systems in place to manage. You can manage your little team here because it's enough. In my company now, I've got 3 team leaders and a 2 IC, because I can't manage everybody, but I've got good people managing the teams. And I know that if I put somebody good in place, then they can manage well. And similarly, at a multinational, 100,000 employees, you need a good team. You need to appoint good people, and if they're not working, you need to move good people. Not so good people.
You know what happened at the Springboks when they decided to bring Erasmus back, and you had 2 years to get that disaster of a team ready for the World Cup. Look what he did. It was
leadership,
the right man at the top, leadership, and it filtered down, and
you talk
that's how
about
it's done.
you talk about SOPs. Ryan and I trying to get an SOP for the podcast, right? We got to do this, we got to do that. When did we were talking about that yesterday, day before yesterday. Come, let's get an SOP together. Yeah. So you do fall back into that way of thinking. But I'm so happy that you've got that background because, as you say, an airline environment, yourself and your fellow crew member and your crew members in the cabin, that's a high performance team, and you got to manage that team. I think as a captain, that's all you're actually doing. You're just managing the aircraft and its systems, but also the people around. So yeah, I agree with you.
But if, as you talk about, you're running a business and you've got staff and employees, as much as we all need permission to do our things, we also all need structure. And even the most free spirit on this planet, you often hear these guys, oh no, I don't follow structure, I do my own thing. Oh, but I have a morning routine that I follow religiously. Yeah. Just blowing yourself out of the water. You need that structure, and all of us need it at some level, some greater, some less. And often when you've got people working for you, they need more structure so they understand exactly what to do, what is required of them, and that allows them to deliver. So the whole SOP thing, it works. It works in every avenue.
Yeah, the aviation background is a solid background for someone starting something new. There's no question about that. I found out last week, did we speak about Amazon, Prime Air?
Yes.
So Prime Air is the drone delivery arm of Amazon.
Okay.
Amazon Air is their cargo.
That's going to be the fleet of the 70s.
Yeah, they've bought into, I don't know which way around it is, but Atlas Air and Amazon Air have kind of teamed up in a certain way. So now there's a bit of a rumor going around in America because Atlas do quite a few charter flights, obviously, with passengers.
Yeah. So
now they're looking and saying, is Amazon going to go into the passenger side of things as well? So there's no further information on that. But so Prime Air will be the drone delivery side of things.
Well, that clarifies it.
To get a bit nerdy on the tech stuff again, can you imagine, Amazon helping you with, you just get this message. We see that in mid-April, you like to fly to Denver. There's a special running. Would you like to buy 3 tickets for you and your kid, and your partner and your kid? Because they know your search history.
And you're right. And
Well, I mean, they're there already. Smart fridges. It'll automatically send you a message that you're running out of milk, and I've ordered milk for you. I mean, that's.
And I don't think my fridge is going to send me milk.
But it's quite an important one, Brett. The same thing, they talk about the smart toothpaste and stuff, can actually read when you're out of toothpaste. But this is where they say how important branding is. Because if you just ask for toothpaste, Amazon are going to send you the toothpaste that they decide, maybe their own. So you would need a brand like a Colgate or something to say, I want Colgate toothpaste. So how important a brand is tied to something. Yeah, it's an interesting one. The last CRJ was delivered to SkyWest the other day.
Yeah, I saw that.
The 1945th and last Mitsubishi delivered to SkyWest to fly for Delta. So that's the end of the line for the CRJ. You and I spent 10 years flying that aircraft, an awesome aircraft, but that's it, done. No more. It's over.
Yeah, it's quite sad, but it is what it is. It's a new world. Let's go forward.
Yep. Did you see that internet access balloon that fell out they call it an Eastern Cape, a loon balloon. So it was one of these, I think it hovers up there at 20 kilometers above the ground. And it was designed to, bring communications to the far reaches of the world. And then I laugh at the article because it says even Mozambique. It's like, well, I don't know why Mozambique is so far. But obviously, is this because Elon Musk is now with his Starlink? Because that basically thrown this out.
I think his satellites are shooting the balloons down.
Yeah. We were talking about it the other night. We had a webinar the other night with John. Yeah, it went incredibly well.
Good man.
Very good man. And there are lots of guys that everyone was worried about the load shedding. It was 6:30 in the evening, so got a few messages saying I might not be able to make it because we're expecting load shedding. And John said, "Well, why can't you just use your phone as a hotspot or something?" But I know for me at my place, it doesn't work. Once if the area that's hit, I mean, I use a 5G, and if Bryanston has load shedding, I don't get internet, but I don't live in Bryanston. So what's happening with this with Musk's satellites? Are we going to be able to use these things at some point? And what are they going to be connected to? Is it going to be a...
You can actually put your name down for the early list. You can sign up. I think is it $4.99 or $1.99, and you're on the list. And then when it's up and running in 18 months or so, you can then sign up as a customer. Mm-hmm. It's the sort of middle atmosphere or middle elevation. I don't know what the term is. Orbit, low orbit satellite. And the idea is that it's a fixed base thing. So you put in one place. You're not going to travel around with it in your car. But for home use in a remote area, think of farming. If you think of like the Internet of Things and farming and the tech behind farming and the rain and the soil densities, etc., nutrition, but now you're stuck somewhere you can't get fiber, even your cell phone reception is not so great. That's really the application. Northern Cape or Zanin or somewhere out there where you can use it for business. That's where it's going to really shine.
So 30 seconds before we're supposed to go live, you're not climbing on a ladder up the roof to fix an aerial.
The line speeds from that link are going to be ridiculously fast. I think it's really about 20 gigabytes a second.
They already have tests at over 200 megs line. I mean, that's faster than you can get into the
He never oversold it when he was speaking on Joe Rogan's podcast the other day.
On for you.
Yeah, I suppose. I suppose. Alex, if I can just throw this little compliment at you. This started for me way back playing soccer at Westville when I was, 10, 12 years old. To say my old man is a competitive guy would be an understatement. So it was made quite clear early on that winning is important, because winning, like anything, is a habit.
Sure.
And I base a lot of what I think about people about what I learned in those early days. And one of the things for me was when you're sitting in a change room and you look across at the other guys that are there were always one or two guys that you look at and say, I'm glad that guy is on my team. I'm glad he's playing with me. I'm not playing against that guy. You mentioned the Springboks earlier, and the Springboks have won more key games than other teams over the past however many years. And I think it's because they've probably got more of those type of guys. Maybe not the most talented player from a technical point of view in the world, but probably one of the more tough or robust, or there's something about that person that makes you happy that they're on your team. And I feel that way about you, because you're one of those guys where I would rather be in your network working with you than working against you. And I'd like to think you think the same about us.
For sure.
And I base a lot of that, it's that first opinion. Do I want this guy on my team? And you're one of those guys. And I'd like to thank you now while we're on the show for giving me that boost when I needed it. And you spoke about the branding and that earlier, and being critical. We have to be a bit critical with each other, don't you think? I mean, how else are we going to grow? Exactly. You have to be critical and say, hey, I don't. We have this thing in the back of our head. I remember at the time, I didn't know how to do it, but I knew it was there. Maybe no one will notice. Get an email from Alex. Your branding is shit.
I might remember your subsequent conversation with us afterwards.
You laid out me. Well, thanks, Bryan. I appreciate that, and sincerely. And I do consider you part of the team. And as I've said to many people, and we spoke about this before too, we're not competitors. We're collaborators. We might even have the same audience listening to this show and my show, but it's a completely different show. And I'm happy that I listen to yours, you listen to mine, your audience listens to mine, and my audience, it's the same audience a lot of the time. So, we can help each other. The space is big. and I encourage more people to join.
Yeah.
We don't own the space, and the more of us there are, the more things we can share, the more we can learn of each other. It's wonderful.
Yeah, it's an interesting sphere of guys to get together. I mean, just look at our collaboration with John Howell as well. I mean, it's really given us good empathy.
Different country, but still similar people.
Interests and that kind of thing. And the collaboration with John has been great. I mean, we've put a couple of good things together, and it's great. So yeah, we need to just do
support
that
each other.
more.
Yeah, I remember John reached out to me also November 2019, where he interviewed, also one of my first times where I was interviewed on his podcast, and I was sitting in a hotel in New York being interviewed, and it was nerve-wracking and exciting all at the same time. Fire engines going off down the road outside the hotel, but also a good guy and a bit ahead of us with what he was doing. Again, maybe it's a similar audience, doing a different thing, providing a great service. But I also want to pick up on what you put out this week on the YouTube video. Bryan, I know you guys are all a team in this as well. It comes across that it was your training video. I know it's a team effort. It's something that you've done very well. I encourage people to go and have a look. Specifically the FMA, the Flight Mode Annunciator on the CRJ. Great training video. Exactly the kind of thing people are looking for. Real technical stuff. You know for yourself, you're at home, you got trouble with I had trouble with my car window this week. Searched up YouTube, Yaris door window winder not working. It's exactly what people look for, and it's a very well put together training video. It explains it clearly. You've used nice animation. Obviously by now you're great at speaking. The message comes across clearly, so well done.
Thank you, Alex. I really appreciate that. And I think that message today, if there's anyone else out there that wants that boost, that's what we're all here for. Bryan Air team, and I know Alex definitely part of that. So, thank you, everyone. Thank you for your time today. And, we shoot this on a Thursday. And thank you for Alex for getting up nice and early to be with us. And, I don't think this is the last podcast we'll be doing together, because we haven't even scratched the surface of what I really want to get into. But guys, we've been talking for an hour. We could talk for another 2 hours on this show, man. So we got to do it again. And I'd like to dive deeper into that area of expertise of yours on the performing teams, because these guys will tell you that's heavily on my side that I'm interested in. When we train here, it's all about working as a team, and it's the other areas that we don't often give attention to that are so critical. But I love your stories, I love your work, and I love the fact that you've been given this new opportunity. Encourage everyone to go out and watch and listen. It's going to be awesome. If Alex is involved, which he is, it's going to be awesome.
Thanks, congratulations, bud. Looking forward to it. It's going to be good fun.
Cool. Thank you, Brett. Yeah.
Thanks for joining us today, and good luck with everything going forward. Look forward to seeing these shows come up.
It's going to be great.
Thanks, Ryan. Thank you. Thanks for the invite. And it's not too early. We could leave it earlier if you want next time.
Okay, cool. Then we can talk a bit longer. But we're back next week. Until then, cheers for now.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.